Hi, how is everybody doing tonight? Welcome to another edition of Poetry Goes Viral at Carolina Poets. My name is Kimberly J. Simms, and I will be your host tonight. We are so excited that you could join us on this Thursday night. We are here every Thursday with a different curator. Derek Berry and Andrew Clark and I all take turns booking and hosting the events. It's really been so much fun. We started the event back at the beginning of the pandemic as a way to help authors get their words out and get their information about their books out to people during the pandemic. You can watch our show. We are multi-streaming right now. We are on the Facebook page of Carolina Poets, as well as also on our YouTube channel, Carolina Poets, and also on the Facebook page, Wits and Poetry. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We really have a great show. Our poets tonight, we're going to have Jay Ward, we're going to have Heather Dearmon, and we're going to have Candace Wiley. And I'm super excited about this lineup. It's going to be just a ton of fun. I'm kind of going to chat away for just a few seconds, just to give everyone a chance to jump on the feed. I did want to announce too, a few weeks ago, we did do a reading with Richard Garcia, Dorianne Lux, and Joseph Millar. Unfortunately, the night that we did that reading was the same night that the hurricane hit South Carolina, and Richard's feed was being interfered with. So we did re-record him this week. And so we're going to be re-releasing that entire show probably the week after Thanksgiving. So definitely keep an eye out for that so you can go back and watch it. But thank you so much for being here this evening. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jay, who is actually someone I've known for a really long time. He's just a fabulous poet, both on the page and on the stage, and also does so many different types of wonderful art. He's actually in a play tonight and is backstage at the theater, and he's going to give us just really a special treat of a reading. But Jay Ward is a poet. He's a teaching artist from Charlotte, North Carolina. There's an honest and raw energy released to the audience when his page meets the stage. A story aching to be heard, a salve searching for hearts. Jay is currently ranked 14th in the world for slam poetry and Charlotte's 2016 Poet of the Year. He's also program director for BreatheInk, where he facilitates writing and performance workshops and coaches youth poets attending Brave New Voices each year. He has released 2 full-length CDs of poetry, published the book Life Powered Soul in 2009, is certified to lead writing groups and workshops by the Amherst writers and artists. In addition, he's appeared on Fox News, opened for the Angie Stone and Georgia Me, featured in many venues throughout the Southeast, and taught at numerous schools and universities. Thank you again for all being here. I'm going to go ahead and bring Jay onto the stage. Let me get his mic turned on. Jay, so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Kimberly. Thanks so much for the invite.
You're welcome. And what theater are you broadcasting from?
So this is Spirit Square, which is one of Blumenthal's buildings uptown in Charlotte. And so the show is going to be at the Duke Energy Theater, which is currently directly across from me.
Awesome. And the Blumenthal is where the Charlotte Slam happens as well.
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you. I'm going to go ahead and step back because I don't want to use up too much of your time because I know you have another show to get to. But please give it up, everyone, for Jay Ward.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. There might be some light jazz playing in the background at some point. I apologize. But I think there's 2 things that make poetry better. One is light jazz. The other one is alcohol. You can have one at your own place and you'll have the other one through these speakers probably. I was thinking, Kimberly, I was just reminded that that bio, I keep forgetting that I need to expunge that bio from the internets, but it's overall accurate. However, I will say, just to say, it doesn't mean anything, but just to say, I was actually #1 in the world for Poetry Slam last year, and in 2018 won the National Poetry Slam. But it doesn't really matter. But that's one of the reasons why I need to change that long bio. What I'm going to do to open up tonight is I was fortunate enough to work with Bull City Press this year, and they published a microchat book of mine earlier this year. So if you go to bullcitypress.com or I think it's bullcitypress.org, you can find their microchat series called Inch. This one is called Sing Me a Lesser Wound. and I'm very proud of it, but also I'm proud of everything that comes from Bull City Press, because their authors and their writing and their standards are pretty high. So you can't go wrong. I'll say that I might come back at the end and kind of reaffirm where the book can be found. But I'm going to read the first poem here. It's called Like Prophets of Baal. We had gotten a whole hog from Allander, pink-fleshed and splayed like a sacrifice to cover sin, which is belief that tomorrow is a place we can eat. The night sky is star and ash. I walk around the offering before the body is pulled. The men maneuver flame, and smoke seems to follow me. No matter where I go, Dad is gone to tend the fire. My uncle motions the bag towards me, peels it from the bottle's mouth like a fast-moving rain cloud, and I feel like a man in the most important way. Not the drink, but the passing. The acknowledgement I am old enough to understand how the world works, to see the other side. It burns sweet on my finger. I look around nervous and excited the way I would years later when the homeless man outside 7-Eleven returns with Mad Dog, OE, and something for himself. It is the offering, after all, that counts, reminds us of gain and loss. That's good stuff, my uncle says, and I nod in belief, face contorting into an amen, but it burns like the split open swine on cinder block. See how the smoke follows our gods, like eyes of a portrait, an heirloom. The men walk in their own ritual of pretense, ignoring whole conflagrations. My uncle ignores whole burns in his chest, just like Dad. One day, I'd beg Uncle Skin to put the cigarettes down. He'd say there's no point in quitting now, when he could feel what was chasing him already had hold. Temple of blackened breathing, charred flesh. It's truly something, the way the meat smokes for hours, the way I watch entranced. We hop out his truck and the brown paper cloud disappears under his seat, crackling its own thunder. I can smell the pork and the pepper and vinegar it will soon be doused with. Can smell too impending rain on the summer air. He shows me how to coerce embers back into flame while he lights a Newport. Done. The tradition handed down. Decades pass and I still drink cognac. My throat an altar of wet ground. Each sip proof. Each taste a howl for resurrection of that moon. Bring it back. Bring it back. His smile, an introduction, a soft mischief. I don't even think Dad would have minded the Hennessy, really. But I never told him. Most beliefs we build on secrets. When I say cancer runs in my family, what I mean is I'm being chased. Or my father and his 5 siblings couldn't run fast enough. Or I ain't been back to my hometown since this uncle's funeral. Or I can't run from everything now, can I? Notice how some traditions end. Why fear the chase? A monster's hot breath search for my lungs. I summon the fire now. Swallow it like a sky of things passed down, like a sky, like a whole sky. Dad is gone. My uncle followed like smoke. So what I really love about this micro collection is that it gave me an opportunity to honor my hometown. I was raised in a very small town. The last time I went back, we had a second stoplight, which previously was like a hazard light or something. So that was an upgrade. That was a conversion. So being able to write my story and my narrative as a Black person, as a biracial person, but through the lens of the South was something that I really liked. And also, I was I was raised in a very small town, and it brings me some measure of happiness to be able to shout it out and people not know what I'm talking about. The next poem I'll read here, I think, is Inheritance. So a lot of these poems do either explore Blackness in the South, or they explore being biracial and growing up in the South, and this one's kind of the latter. Inheritance. I was never the clean plate. I was the swirl of flour white biscuit in dark corn syrup. At church, I was a wide-mouthed Baptist hymn whenever my father made eye contact. 8 tea bags bathing in a glass jar on the back steps, sun high and fevered, I was a hot summer. Who cares what the package says? I was 2 cups of sugar instead of 1. I was man or baby or D or cousin Peanut from down the street. A name in the South is a yardstick, becoming the measure of both giver and receiver. My friend 10 Pointer got his name by scoring 10 points in a basketball game. Simple. Don't ask me about Uncle Alpo or crack or the senior in college who only let us call him my nigga. Dad reminds me during an argument, the only thing he can give me is his name as reflection and his religion as legacy. And what is he if I walk away from either? I wasn't the clean plate. I was the swirl who only called myself black, not white, black, which felt like the only way to keep part of him with me, to acknowledge what I'd been given. Yeah. So this next poem. So being raised in the South, I went to like the Maryland, DC area for like 13 years. And so whenever friends or family would come back with me down to the South to see my hometown and see where I was raised in, they would always do one particular thing. And I get it. I understand why. But what was funny is even if I told them on the way down, this is what you're going to do, they would say, no, I'm not going to do that. And then of course they would do it. This poem is Homecoming, Rich Square, North Carolina. That's my town. Shout out Rich Square. Northern black folk drive through my hometown and stop along the road to pick cotton, a drifted piece, something the machine skipped over. Feel the need to connect, honor ancestors by picking straight from the claw of the plant's mouth, seed and all. How thorny it feels, how it calls out blood like the Big Dipper sang a whole bloodline toward a lesser wound. How can anyone do this all day? I worked that field as a kid, only once. Burlap skin as thirsty hands during an annual event reminder for families in need of extra income. Come, the cotton gin called. Mighty fine job, sang Jackson Street from its own crescent mouth. How callous these hands and strong this back I dreamed. Tan this skin, eager this frame, a man, a bag of white gold taller than my dusty afro, earned $8.58. A check that arrived 2 weeks later. Hell no, I never went back. My mother-in-law had never seen a cotton field up close. This visit, she threw open the door before I even got a good stop. Elbow deep and picked one tuft clean and good, nervous the landowner might see her working his soil and pick up a shotgun. Noticed the blood on her fingers, rubbed them pink, and was quiet the rest of the way home. I don't know if anybody watching this has had that experience, but I'm telling you, it did not fail ever. They would always stop and pick cotton, which, again, I get it. All right, so this next one I'm going to read because Poetry.com has a Poetry Daily series, and they featured this poem, which was a shocking surprise to me. This is a poem that meant a lot to me, and it took me a long time to write it. I think I started this poem probably 5 years ago and just didn't know how to put it together. But it was featured there, so I'll read it here. It has an epigraph from George Eliot. If you're familiar with George Eliot, this is kind of an Easter egg that is not super important to the poem, but it's something that I felt added more weight if people knew. So George Eliot was the pen name of actually a woman poet. And being the subject matter of this poem, I think, lends itself to this quote. So I'm going to read the title right into the epigraph, right into the poem, but I think you'll be able to distinguish which is which. If being a man allowed for emotion, it would be like hearing the grass grow or the squirrel's heartbeat, and we should die of that roar, which is the other side of silence. My morning is quiet, stealthy like the pause before bad news, an inherited trait near as I can tell. All the men in my line are instinctually stoic and hidden, brackish bodies damned at the gates. My last uncle just passed away, also of cancer. And with my brother Tyrone, I discussed this too as inheritance, annual x-rays to hunt what would prey on us. Memories surface of fishing trips and nickel poker, except my grief has substituted his face for Tyrone's and Dad's for mine. What am I if not mane, if not king, if not crown and control and grass shadow eyes hidden? My son's first time sinking a hook in ocean water was with him just a few months ago. And we split a can of High Life and hovered over the entrails of a sausage sandwich and laughed at everything. And he was the last of his brothers and the closest thing to seeing Dad again. I breathe deep and slow like a big cat when blood is in the air or ground. Drop the phone on the bathroom floor. Slide down the wall against the shower door like an avalanche crashing down a glass mountain. Head cupped in open palms and become a prayer built on bad knees. Become swinging jaw, unhinged. Become throttle and throat and roar. Remembering my pride. All right, so I'm gonna say again that the title of this micro chat book is Sing Me a Lesser Wound, and it can be found on Bull City Press, either .com or .org. I think it's bullcitypress.org. I'm gonna read a couple more poems from an upcoming collection. One of them kind of is, again, this idea of exploring being multiracial or biracial. And the second one kind of explores, I think, in a way, what we've all experienced this past summer, unfortunately. So this first one is, I wanted to kind of way to bring myself into the space and into conversation with some other heroes of revolution, I guess. So the title is Google Image Search, Boston Massacre for Colin Kaepernick and Crispus Attucks and me. We tiptoe the line of protesting and provoking, don't we? Suffer a kind of death, like a hero, a martyr. Takes a while, but searching your name eventually shows the black bleeding on the ground. Mulatto man with my face, song whelming the mouth. Disrespectful to my owner, I was never a slave. Be careful who you call uppity. I done worked every job likely to kill me. Some say I run for a living, but it ain't that simple. These men look to take my job, livelihood. I don't know if I would go as far as to say patriot when the country I fight for hides my face but accepts the revolution it sparks. America renames me nuisance, but everyone agrees I was there at the dawn of it. The unlikely woolen afro framing my face like freedom, falling like my body needs to be convinced it cannot stand anymore. There I am, falling to a knee, sputtering like a song is stuffed in my mouth. One of the first thing that actually sparked that poem before I started bringing in Colin Kaepernick and everything into that conversation is Crispus Attucks is considered like the person whose actions birthed the American Revolution. And if you Google the Boston Massacre, it shows images of Crispus Attucks, but most of the initial images show him as a white man, but he was not. He was a mulatto. He was a descendant of a slave and American Indian. So that's what initially kind of brought that into the conversation. All right, and for my last poem, this was written a few years ago and then tweaked, but unfortunately it feels very relevant, and I think I'm going to close on this one. The title is Forever a Protest is Just a Run. Forever a protest is just a run-on sentence written without hands or gods, and never stems from the march-turned waterfall of bodies pouring over a police car like wanton flame. Notice, none of the news outlets refer to these folk as animals or thugs or degenerates, and no one says the aftermath makes it hard to take their protests seriously because really they were just expressing themselves after their football team lost or their soccer team won or a statue came down. And who even wrote the sentence, if we're speaking legalities? When elsewhere, a man walking backwards is a threat. Ralph Ellison's gun is a threat. Every shroud that renames us exaggeration Is the body cam footage finally released, but only partial? So Fox News quotes Rodney King instead of Martin Luther King. Can't we all just get along? And maybe they don't know what King actually said was a riot is the language of the unheard, because they were too busy not hearing it while the boy died, or the girl was kicked, or they both died twice, buried by stacks of resistant limbs, because justice is irresistible. My question is, if Trump says bad cops are human and make mistakes too, and then a cop in the sky is quoted as saying the guy with his hands up looks like a bad dude, and later a white supremacist is taken alive and to Burger King after killing everyone in the church, are we praying to heaven or feeding an idol? Or maybe the question is, how do we do this so that it makes sense? Stops when it's supposed to. Why do we have to break the rules in name of clarity just to be scolded for use of particular grammar? Notice my hand is not in this. The ink keep moving on its own, red and indelible. Notice how tiring it can be not seeing color. We see blood and you see black. We see protest and you see black words. We see poetics and you see ceaseless volleys that pain the ears but go unheard, become an Exodus labeled beast, meaning it's easier to focus on words than injustice, broken windows than oppression, meaning if it exposes you as the problem and you yelp, and I misquote King, a hit dog will holler, or I misquote God, we will tire out if we don't win the race for life. Then, and then, and then, and then I will stand on a street corner in my Sunday best, screaming all the scarlet text at apathetic passersby. Who wrote this poem but you? Who but the zealot who scribes himself holy? Thank you so much. Again, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Derek and Andrew and everyone involved in the show.
That was amazing. Oh my gosh. We would be hearing like so much applause if we were all like in person right now.
I can't wait to be back in person.
I know. Oh my gosh. So let me ask you a question. Just as a Southern poet and being someone that writes in the South but lived somewhere else, what do you think it means, or how do you think it's affected you as a writer to be from the South or to be writing in the South?
Oh yeah. I think so. Initially, when I always wrote, but when I moved up north, I kind of stopped writing for a while. But I started again, and I think it was hard to center myself. I think it was hard to really find myself, because not living in the South, I don't know that I was giving myself permission to own that. So moving back to the South, it began to, a lot of memories began to reemerge and a lot of complexities. Like living in the South is great, but it's also complex. I mean, there's some things involved with it, and kind of picking that up as nuance. And I think the other thing was I went to a writing retreat called Callaloo, which focuses on, writers of color, not necessarily from the South, but they do have an edge towards that, as does the Watering Hole, which Candace and I are a part of, which focuses on writers of color from the South. And being able to be taught, to be in company with, to be in conversation with other writers of color from the South, to see how they handle their writing, also gives us permission to own those stories that we weren't sure we could tell or that we wanted to tell. And I think it's been really eye-opening for me to be able to embrace that, like to own all the good things, like all the good things that belong in the South and all the good things that go with being raised in the South, and the complexity that comes along with some things that are not as great and some experiences that are not as great. I think has opened me up as a writer to be able to dive into that.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much. And I think it's great too, because I'm noticing how you're walking in those worlds of the kind of published poetry and the slam poetry at the same time, which I think is a really beautiful thing. I love how so many poets are doing that now. How are you finding kind of jumping back and forth?
It's weird because so I told myself I was retiring from performance poetry last year, and because of the pandemic, I can't tell if I've done it or not. Like I've done some performances, like some virtual performances, and it doesn't quite feel the same. So I don't know how much I'm living in both worlds, or how much I don't know what's happening. I'm disconnected,
I feel that. It's funny because I find myself like I tend to I write mainly traditional poetry, but once or twice a year I still got to write like a performance piece. Just because sometimes there's just something you want to say that just is in that more of that genre. So I want to ask you one question about your coming back to the South poem. So when your friends are with you, you come back to the South, do they notice your accent get stronger?
No, it's funny because I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York, like upstate New York. I moved to Carolina when I was 5 years old, and I always got made fun of because by that time, I don't know, I guess I was speaking differently. So I always got made fun of for speaking too proper.
Right.
But then by the time I moved away, like to DC, they were like, "Man, you country." I'm like, well, I don't know. I can't win.
I feel that because I was actually born in Massachusetts and moved to the South when I was 4. And when I'm here, everyone's like, you don't have a Southern accent. And then when I go somewhere everywhere else, they're like, wow, your accent's so Southern.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Jay, this has been fabulous. And we can go to Bull City Press to get your book. We'll put a link up.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us. I know you have to get on. What play are you in?
It's 7 testaments. It's 7 monologues written by 7 different playwrights. It was written for the New Black Fest, so it's called Hands Up. 7 moments for 7 testaments, or something like that. So Quentin Talley is actually directing it.
Oh, yeah. I love him.
Yeah. And Freeborn Theater is putting it on. And I do want to say very quickly, I was really excited to read with Heather and Candace tonight. I do unfortunately have to jump backstage.
Right.
But because this is going to be available, I just want them to know I will be listening because I was, excited and eager to be part of the reading. So I will listen later, and I apologize that I have to drop now. I hope that everyone else here really enjoys the reading and appreciates the spectacular effort to put this reading together during these times.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jay. We appreciate you, and we will see you soon. Have a great time. Hope everything goes great on the play tonight.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Well, oh my gosh, that was such a treat to have Jay on. He's so talented on the page and on the stage, and really, we just have an absolute powerhouse here for y'all tonight. I'm just so excited to be part of Carolina Poets and be able to bring so many different voices to the stage. Please, if you're able to share this post to your own page and to like it and comment if you have questions, definitely, drop your question in the chat, and we may have a few minutes at the end. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Heather next. I'm really excited. I actually got to see Heather a few weeks ago. I did a workshop at the Carl Sandburg House, and she was able to come. So it's always a treat to see her. In her illuminating debut collection, Water Unto Light from Finishing Line Press, Heather Dearmon has skillfully crafted her poems with a word palette meticulously chosen for its varying depths of color, metaphor, and richly textured imagery. Dearmon invites the reader on an honest, no-holds-barred journey through which layers of a woman's past and present realities, both heartbreakingly cruel and sensuously beautiful, are unfolded, and the reader beholds the valiant poet's quest for meaningful hearing. Heather, we are so excited to have you here tonight.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor.
And are you going to read? I know you're working on a new collection right now. Are you going to read some newer poems?
I'm going to read some newer poems, but since I've been making friends with poets from Georgia and from other parts of South Carolina, I know they're not familiar with my book, so I figured I would read just to.
I was hoping you would.
Good.
I was hoping you would. Well,
good,
great.
Yeah.
And we'll put a link to Finishing Line Press because people can still get that book from Finishing Line.
Okay, yeah, and I have this is the that's the cover.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, I'm going to step back and let you get going.
Okay, great.
See you in a minute.
Thank you so much. The 2 poems that I chose to read from my book have actually won prizes. So I haven't won a prize in a long time, and these are still very dear to me. This first poem is called Note from Parents on 18th Birthday, and it won first prize in the South Carolina Poetry Initiative and the state single poem contest in 2006. We are away today, child. There is plenty of us left in the cupboards. In the laundry room, you will find fresh eyes and a pair of folded arms. The feet are unwashed. Leave them there. Allow your regular duties to perform. Remember, the rubbish bin is full and needs your attention. We agree. The calendar has announced your inheritance, and you will find it in the back of Daddy's wardrobe. Now please remember the prodigal, the whores, the squandering, the hunger for pig troughs. What more can we say? The choices are before you. When we come back this evening, we hope to find you home. This second poem it was a bittersweet when my father ended up taking his life in 2007. And I wrote this poem called Not the Matter. And to my surprise, it won first prize in the Kakalak Anthology of Southern Poets in 2008. Not the Matter. The sky is pale. The grass where the bird's nest fell is umber, and I have been forbidden to go outside to the tattered object. Turn its cup toward my eyes. Observe the wreckage within. From this window, I know the nest and the 5 baby wrens are broken. Not far from the scene lies the mother bird, still and watching. But here I will tell you the actual matter. The poor, broken babes are not little birds. They are my 3 brothers and 2 sisters, fallen down with piths rent. The disfigured nest is my father's body, that from this window I can see in the yard. Not far from the scene lies my mother, watching the pale sky, the tattered object, the umber grass where the bird's nest fell. Even though it's been 13 years, it definitely still gets to me. So forgive me for choking there. For about 6 months now, I've been putting together a collection of single line poems. They are 1-sentence poems, and it's really been fun to do, and it's been challenging, but I wanted to give a couple examples. So this is one of my favorites, and it's called Bring Me Something Broken. Bring me something broken, like my father's skull, or the gray elephant teapot you threw at me in a rage. Some things need glue, others a thesaurus, for a better word than mending. The teapot was thrown in the trash and you were sorry. My father's skull will forever be a loud cracking open. I am continually searching for a better word. And this is another one-line poem, and it is called Denial. Expect everything that touches your tongue to be bland. No kiss is just a kiss, and this is just payment. The taste of the world has pulled away from you, and colors have outright rejected your perception. And yet, somehow, you still will not let it go, despite its inability to ever be recovered. I recently had one of my poems chosen to be in Sheltered, which was put together by Cynthia Boyder and Brian Harmon. It's a Jasper project. It's Sheltered South Carolina artists respond during the 2020 pandemic. And it is available on Amazon. It's an incredible collection, and I'm very, very honored to have been chosen to be in it. And my poem is called Perhaps the Beginning. Perhaps the beginning is here. The symptoms were present when I awoke, and my head in a fever, and my chest an old bellow that wheezes when compressed. I am afraid to tell you. Should I wait until a cough develops, or I lose my appetite? I know very little about how to die. Should I write out final wishes, such as what I'd like to be done with all of these bones and organs when they no longer function? I will do as much as I can manage before I am, God forbid, taken away to drown, not in a pool or body of water, but in fluids produced on my insides, the same place where my love resides for you, the same place where I once carried our son. This world of so many beginnings and endings I have loved and loathed, but mostly feared, especially now as I begin to show symptoms that may eventually end everything we know. Let's see how much time I have left here. Okay. Oh, goodness. I may be cutting it short here tonight. This poem was recently accepted for publication in Free State Review, which you can, they're taking pre-orders at freestatereview.com. And it's a sexy little poem here at our fingertips. Maybe you think I don't understand the intimacy of music, the way a guitar string moans when pressed and strummed, but I have known those fingers and been those strings, with my neck caressed by a single hand while the other works furiously at the opening. You may think poetry is less sensual, but I promise if I go on simply explaining the way a musician plays a guitar, I believe I could also make you sing. And this is just I'm going to read you poems. These are for a manuscript of hopefully full length. That's what I'm working on. A manuscript of one-line poems and a manuscript of regular poetry. And this one was inspired by the pandemic. It's called Fever. It is Wednesday, and the mother in me wants to cradle you to sleep, even as the day is hot and running wild. Wednesday is the middle, and I believe we may be stuck in this, the middle of progress, the middle ground, the middle road, the middle of misinformation and misdiagnosis, the damn hump. And here we are, ill and discontented, and I long, as you, to be comforted, for the slightest breathe of a cool breeze. We cannot remember winter or chilly weeks or months in our delirium. It has always been Wednesday, and we have always cried like babes with the fever. The ice machine is broken, the air conditioning broken, the lungs, head, the clock on the wall, the love of life, dear God, the middle of the week, and everything in the days before and hereafter are with me. Surely I am seeing the hours rotate counterclockwise, and it is still Wednesday and hot as hell. Sometimes poems come from everyday experiences, and this poem came to me when I went food shopping, and it's called One of Them. Today, the people who Jesus loved are at the food market. The beggar sits outside. She is all gums when she smiles as a man hands her $1. The older gentleman with open sores on his leg has just enough change to buy a cold beer. The single mother tries to calm her wailing child in the cart as she herds the other from wandering down the wrong aisle. I catch my reflection in the meat counter window, bent over and starting to wrinkle. I have $55 in the bank and must add up the groceries so as not to overdraft. My smile is not being returned today. The world is in peril, and every person, including the cashier, is well aware. I place the sparse bags in my car, which will soon be empty of gas, and I realize I am one of them, the people Jesus loves. And I think, let's see. I think I have time for 2 more. So I will, this is another one that I'm not really religious. I believe in God, and I believe in having a relationship with the Creator. I am very unorthodox. This poem came again from an everyday experience. It's called More Than Many. I witnessed the mind of God among 4 sparrows in the center of our blacktop road. Even though I approached carefully, the birds quickly dispersed. So I stood a moment in the middle of the circle where they had assembled, and there I tried to believe your words, that I am worth more than many of these birds who sing praises from the highest boughs that graze the holy empyrean and know not the burden of sin and regret as I, O Lord, as I. And I will end with this poem, which is called My Lover's Heart. How steady the pith of you beats, how its shape began as a rosebud, fluttered as a tiny bird, now large as your sizable fist. Your innermost is a sound I love and fear, the beating, an instrument I cannot help but dwell on how all songs end. The stethoscope listens so intently, without sentiment, a tool. I only have an ear to press, and I can only stand the sound for so long, as though listening might jinx it. My love, beat out longer and louder than what my own heart can muster. I cannot accept anything less. Thank you.
Awesome, Heather. Thank you so much.
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh, that was such a treat.
Oh,
And it was great to hear from you from the Finishing Line Press book, but from your new stuff you're working on too. So thank you. Oh my gosh.
It.
And we're going to be posting those links so people can check out your stuff. And we'll post it on Carolina Poets. So thank you, Heather. We're going to I'm going to put you
so
backstage. And
okay.
I appreciate you. That was great. Thank y'all so much. This has just been such a treat tonight. We're getting ready to move on to our last reader. I'm not going to dilly-dally too much because we're getting towards the end of our time, but we've definitely have an amazing poet left to bring up on stage tonight. We have Candace Wiley, who is the founder of The Watering Hole. And she was born in South Carolina, graduated with a BA from Bowie State University and HBCU. Her MA is from Clemson. Go Tigers, and her MFA at the University of South Carolina. She is co-founding director of The Watering Hole, a nonprofit that creates Harlem Renaissance-style spaces in the contemporary South, and she often writes in the mode of Afrofuturism, covering topics from Black aliens to mutants to mermaids. She's recently left a teaching position at Clemson University to begin the Tulsa Artist Fellowship. Wiley is now living and writing and helping direct The Watering Hole from her new home in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hi, Candace. How are you?
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Are you broadcasting from Oklahoma? Or are you home for the holidays?
It depends on who's asking. Is the government asking?
No.
No. I'm live from Greenville. So
Woo-woo! Well, it's Thanksgiving, so most of us I think are heading towards our hometowns these days anyway.
Right.
So
Exactly. I can't wait. I'm gonna eat everything twice.
yes, get you a good biscuit while you're here.
Yes. That's one of the foods I miss when I do leave. I'm like, ooh, biscuits, grits, done right. Not sweet, but savory, you know.
Right. Yes. What is this sugar business? Well, I'm going to step back because I don't want to eat up your time, but I'm so excited to have you here. And I'll pop back on here at the end.
Yes. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, team, and everybody at Carolina Poets. I'm going to go ahead and get it popping, because we are running out of time. But this poem is for my grandfather. I have the website right there where my name is if you want to follow along, or if you want to go back and find this poem. It's called Answers for the Hard Questions, after Patricia Smith's Because. 'Cause he knew 95 would be his last year. 'Cause ghosts live in his backyard. 'Cause he doesn't know why the Lord has kept him. 'Cause he's 16 years past his wife, 3 years past his son, and the last of 11 children. 'Cause it wasn't that one oil can. It was all the years of oil cans, kerosene lamps, hog slaughters, fence mendings that wrenched his back and laid him low. 'Cause he's never lived off his father's land, except for the war, which was a different time. 'Cause as soon as we took him off the land, the mumbles set in. 'Cause he's dying inch by inch, and we have to watch, 'cause we are in the awful position of believing we can help. 'Cause if one more nurse, always young, always white, always too eager to be in my face, tells me he's so cute, he who 5 months ago lived on his own and today can't wipe his own ass. If one more nurse, 'cause Becky with the cold hands doesn't understand that he's telling her that her hands are cold. She just keeps saying, mine too, 'cause the older Black nurses know when to laugh, even through the mumbles, a code I have yet to decipher. 'Cause the tape on his arms and neck that keep tubes and needles in place tear his skin, 'cause his skin itself is too weak to resist a tug. 'Cause no one but family sees the bruises on his arms. 'Cause my mom has to teach the phlebotomist how to draw blood without making not another hole. 'Cause his barbecue recipe isn't secret, it's just uncopyable. Measurements in bits and little bits. 'Cause mixed couples walking unbothered still surprise him. 'Cause he is high yellow himself and knows who and how. 'Cause he was born either October 21st or 24th, 1921. 'Cause the doctor who processed the midwife's birth certificates didn't cleave to Negro meticulosity, the act or process of giving a care about whether you do your job right for people of color. 'Cause he went to the war to escape the farm. 'Cause the unknown flesh-eating bacteria in the Philippines may have saved his life. 'Cause the black smudges smoking up his yellow calves are his only scars of war. Because Jesus saved me, then I met your mother. 'Cause bootlegging was going to be a come up, 'cause he was making better money than farming, 'cause he chased a man with a gun, because that man stole something, because he round the corner real fast. And because Jesus saved me, and then I met your grandmother. because colored army men could clean planes at Cherry Point, because he and grandma still had to farm to make ends meet, because they saved foil, glass, bottles, fabric, eggshells, because the rows of mason jars tagged peaches 1992, string beans 1995, okra 2000, line sentinel, dust coated in grandpa's smokehouse turned pantry, waiting for the one who canned them, because they were ecological scientists studying green living and ways to reduce waste, because they lived through the Depression, because when grandma ran on, he pulled out mason jars stuffed with money lining the backs of closets, because it turned out that bills can rot, and so they had, because bills also don't cleave to Negro meticulosity, because the daughter he tried to adopt won't call, because the only son ran on too, because the two youngest daughters each grab a spoon and shovel it to his closed lips, because they'll soon be adult orphans and told to be grateful, because it took near a decade and a wrench back for heart failure to take his breath, because the clicking and hissing lungs of the oxygen machine drown out his mumbles, because he says Jim Crow convalesces in his nursing home, because no Bible holds the holy way. My grandpa used to tell a story, because he still doesn't smell sick or old, because he still wants to go fishing with grandma, even though the waterways went bad in the 90s, even though grandma ran on in 2002, because he doesn't know why the Lord is keeping him, because dying away from the land and the ghosts who live in his dreams is not in our tradition, because he knew 95 would be his last year, because waiting to die is inconvenient. So, poem from my grandpa, William Roundtree. Let's go and kick us off. My name is Candace Wiley. As Kim mentioned, I'm co-founder of the Watering Hole. I have to give a shout out to the MAC Foundation, Metropolitan Arts Council, for their support in the past. If you haven't heard of them or don't know about them, please go check them out, especially if you're an artist in the Greenville area. Of course, shout out to all my grandparents, because they influence a lot of the stuff I do. This next poem is for the folks who were killed in Mother Emanuel Church. It's called Build a Wall. I wrote this when I first got to Tulsa. Shout out to the Tulsa Artist Fellowship for their support as well. For any artists of any kind, if you're interested in fellowships, Tulsa Artist Fellowship is a good one to look at. This one's called Build a Wall. It's a hustle or a gozzle if you're interested in form. Red-faced, snap-back, stand their ground against their own imaginations. Build that wall. Before the deaconess's head bowed and eyes closed, we should have built a wall. Before the soft gray peeked from under her wig and brushed plush carpet, before the boy tallied, then sprayed the church folks he prayed with, build a wall. Cut to Becky with the cameraman already on site. The body's still mid-air. Ghost still tethered. A particular genre of white woman, she scents opportunity. Build a wall. Becky demands, do you forgive? Don't you forgive? Tongue dabbing the red-tinged corners of her mouth. She wants to know, can she sleep tonight, or should she build a wall before the young folks burn it all down? She seeks an oral contract from any elder. After all, she's a miracle too. Her existence forged on centuries of well-built walls and forgiveness. She dreams of wokeness, of coming to the cookout, praise the raisin blueberry mac and cheese, of learning to electric slide in Aunt Sis's yard, build a wall. She doesn't read Audre Lorde, Brittany Cooper, Bell Hooks, or Roxane Gay. She fawns over Toni Morrison and asks to touch her hair. Build a wall. The DJ spinning, this is what democracy looks like, and young Carolinians don't know how to both protest and stay quiet when grown folks talking. build a fire. The deaconess straps on her wig and Easter hat, spray paints a mural of Angela Davis at supper with Bayard Rustin and Alice Paul. When she runs out of room, build more wall. She paints 13 figures at repast, Glocks folded into their choir robes. Phyllis's lips drip Ethiop to Ernest Finney. Rita Schwarner and James Wells run the budget for the wall. Bricklayers' fingerprints reach like specters through Auntie Maxine and John Brown, Abraham Heschel, and Franny Lou Proffer. If it's too expensive, build Heaven's Gate. There, electrified pearls hum over cracked oyster shells and maggot-churned meat. Baba Denmark, the sole carpenter at the table, makes the call. No, build a wall. Mother Emanuel, swallowed in quake and fire, echoes 200-year harmonies in the key of O. In a helix of time, the temple is destroyed and rebuilt, a whirl. We've rehearsed this death, spasming, mumbling, collapse into aisles, slain in the spirit, prayer mouths locked as whole notes over fractured bodies, Jericho's building a whale. We miracles testify on Sundays how there was a rope or bombing or fire or rape or Becky or midnight visit or some joy terrorism, one for each ancestors, but God built a wall sometimes. Young Carolinians run the question on repeat. We gonna be all right. We gonna be all right. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? We gonna be all right. Building a whale. Shushing pate cans sink with the ocean, the plink of the ball, spoonfuls of time, tree of life, Sutherland Springs. The deaconess hums, Jesus, be a wall all around me every day. It's Sunday. Wednesday is an impossibility passed in our skin. If we rose out the soil, became our own religion, named it heartbeat, who would need a wall? We're raised to do miracles, kneel in the aisles, cadence Wiley, the breath of a funeral fan, enough to raise the slain. We believe we're hallowed enough to loop time, to build a world. So of course, that was for the Charleston, the Mother Emanuel and Me Church in Charleston. And it always baffles me when reporters show up right away asking, will you forgive the killer? They show up right away. They're right there on the scene. And they're always asking that question. And often it happens in two minority groups. I don't see this happening with Sutherland Springs or, oh man, I'm gonna mess up the name, Sandy Point, where any kind of school shooting, I don't see anybody showing up to ask any of the parents, well, do you forgive the killers? Because it's a ridiculous question. It's a ridiculous time to ask a ridiculous question. So of course that had to go in there. This next poem is part of a project that I'm working on in Tulsa called What If Tulsa? If I get the funding, which I'm applying for a bunch of funding, it's going to be a phone app where you click through the stories of 1921 Tulsa from various character perspectives, and you'll play through stories before the Tulsa Race Massacre, during and after, and the decisions you make in that before period, on Black Wall Street, in the rest of Tulsa, before basically the white community bombed the Black community, set it on fire, killed a bunch of people, shipped the bodies elsewhere, and buried people who they couldn't ship. It was a really crazy situation. And it's as extreme as it sounds. I'm not exaggerating. But the choices you make in the app before the actual massacre happens will determine how your character behaves and what choices will be available to them during the massacre and afterwards. So I'm excited about it. I'm applying for funding to kick it off. So I hope you can be excited about it too. This one is called Sarah Page. It's really short, and I feel like y'all have earned a short poem if you're still here. Sarah Page is the woman who was the story that incited the massacre. The massacre occurred because Dick Rowland, a Black shoe shine guy who was 19 years old, and Sarah Page, a white elevator operator who was 17 years old, encountered each other in the elevator of a building downtown Tulsa, a white-only building except for the top floor where Black people could use the bathroom. They encountered each other. Nobody knows what happened. And she screamed. So some people say he tripped, the elevator was uneven. That's a pretty verified recounting of the story. The elevator was uneven for some reason. He tripped, grabbed hold to her. She screamed. He runs out of the elevator, and then the clerk who heard the situation go down took the story out into the public, and it became this whole thing. The newspapers escalated the incident. I'm sorry, guys. The incident, the way that the Central Park 5 incident was escalated by the media, the way a lot of things are escalated by media who don't do their research. So it was that kind of situation where the media just took control of it and said, she was raped, this and that. And she actually never claimed that to the police, according to their official documents that can still be found. This poem was inspired by all of the chaos of the racialized chaos of the pandemic, of Black people being killed in the streets on a regular basis, and us not being able to go anywhere other than to our TVs or out to march this year. Sarah Page, who schooled you in the incendiary arts, trained you to wield helplessness. You, 17, full of hip switch and giggle, adrenaline high with the judgment of a matchbook. Who taught you the craft of damsel, how to snatch a breath from the air? He grabbed your arm, not knowing it was made of fire and fuel. It's since been a century fraught with parroted 911 screams. Cities still burn. Your comfort still kills. Of course, the moment that really comes to mind was that Amy Cooper moment when she was threatening to call 911 on the bird watcher in the dog park. Yeah, situations like these history recurs. It's really interesting when you study it. On a lighter note, which might not be lighter, I'm gonna read a poem for the first time. The second time is my one and only love poem, maybe one of three. And I have to give a shout out to the godfather of poetry in Tulsa, Tony Brinkley, for forcing me to write a love poem, which I don't like doing. But here it is. I think it turned out okay. I hope you guys enjoy it. To my ex on his wedding day. Raise your glass to the happy couple, to the winding paths, way stations. Raise your glass to chance encounters, me at the front of a seminar, him at the back. To his lungs. Was it the voice or the question that gripped my chest? To the man who learns the language of the country who he's in or tries, who tutors kids after school, then spends the night looking after his great-grandmother. To our hikes, often ill-timed, chased by nightfall, skittering a chattering forest by the glow of a burner phone. To the tent on the beach, packed sand underneath, concreting our knees. To the shared cans of tuna and packs of mayonnaise before the plato corriente, split left of middle. We didn't need to be full just to not be hungry. To climbing wave-smooth rocks in the surf, surrounded by rainforest and mountain. Raise your glass to the morning meditation, slow inhale, slow exhale, to dancing in the street at festivales, on balconies at house parties, to pulling off the road to try food from someone's abuelita. Raise your glass to the waterfall jump in an emerald ravine. Hesitation would have meant a bloody tumble down the side of the ridge, a hike up and out to the road, to the phone, to wait for the ambulance, to come to the city, to find the body, but leap anyway, up and out like a child who believes she can swim. Raise your glass to the leap. Raise your glass to the cost of fear, as concrete as the illusion of it. Raise your glass for his patience when I couldn't leap twice. Raise your glass to the climb up to find a family, to show us where coffee beans come from, a million seeds of possibility, to the whir of a repurposed bike husking shells, to the clunky utility of transformation. Raise your glass to the airports and bus terminals, to the shoulder release. I had no idea. My jaw wrung so tight till you reached for it. Shout out to those same airports and terminals days later, to all the strangers, to the blurry grace of the look away, to the man who made every effort to visit me in my dreams. Raise your glass to the skinny dipped morning walk, to the peak of one mountain looking out at the other, asking how it got so free. Raise your glass to the grape-sized knuckles that wrap a green orange. Dig a beige nail into the skin and peel, to the spritz that dissipates in the sun, to the man who could create a homemade cloud that way, to things only lovers and gods can do. Spirit, water, and light freed into the sun, misting I'm here, before fading into that other realm of presence, smell, the evidence of things not seen. Raise your glass to just you, love, reading Jelly Roll, a book by Kevin Young. The vibrations of your voice thrumming from your chest through my back, me following with a pencil ready to circle words like thrum. To the way any moment could escalate into a poetry reading. Shout out to the family who treated every day like the 4th of July. Shout out to the shared Netflix account. I miss you too. Raise a glass to our children unclaimed. Raise them. Raise my children well. Give them reverence in the face of independence so that they too can one day lift a butterfly from a bush, tell it about their grandmother and let it flit away. Bring another round for the man well raised, Black Buddha, beatboxing into the arch of my foot, to the gasp before he spoke, a whisper of childhood asthma. Shout out to the rosy eye of this poem. I dedicate these memories to the happy couple because tomorrow the memories will also tell me to get over it. There's a little bite at the end. Sorry, guys. This is my last poem. It legitimately is a happy poem. It is a shout out to my undergrad, Bowie State University, BSU, HBCU, historically Black college, founded in 1865 in Maryland. Shout out to the marching band. This poem is called Symphony of Soul because that's what the marching band is called. I didn't have to be creative with titles there. So this is my last poem. I'm going to leave you on an up note, I promise. You guys have seen Black college marching bands, right? You see how they march. You know there's a lot of dancing and motion and high stepping. You're with me, right? Here we go. The funk, because you have to pronounce it that way. Funk, it's not funk. Sorry, guys, just to let you know. The funk is percussive, that loud. Smell it through the phone. Stain teeth brown. They learn to count 5 to 6, then 5 to 8, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 90-degree stair step, staccato out, a pointed toe, yard up and out to midfield, right angle, drummer's lock, wrist twerking, popping off at a steel mouth, cat, 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 doomba, doomba, call and response, tassel-topped, caped, negroid, superhuman, come to save us from stereophonic sound. Note the origin, igungun, igungun, snare call, igungun, to the ancestors, igungun. The Congo keeps it in the pocket, the gangsta lean, born from a left leg drag under hollow bottom resistance. Cymbals slap a hot grease secret on a symphony of soul. It's that black. Hey, it's that gold. Hey, it's the crowded harmonies blaring from the stands. Audience instrument themselves. Oh, 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 oh. Talking outside of your neck. A perfect storm when the horns throat open mouth vowels. A new age spiritual. Brass wailing woodwinds winding up a monument to Negro American sound. In the backyard, in the junkyard of national politics. A rare essence. They know my daddy's name, so they know mine. Keep us friends even after Puberty's fault line trembles, left us ready to brawl. Can you hear it? Let them spell it out on the field. Can you see it? From the stands, from orbit, the kind of praise dance that seeps into the blood through the souls. A funk spiritual that both shouts and answers. SOS! Leaves metal on the tongue. Shout out to Bowie State University. Shout out to the Watering Hole. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. Poetry Goes Viral. Thank you, Carolina Poets. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Yay. We made
Candace, that was fabulous.
it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us so much tonight. That was just really great. And if people want to get your work, they can just go to your website.
Absolutely. You can find 2 of the poems I performed tonight on the website if you want to see them laid out.
Yay, awesome. And are you working on a new, I'm assuming you're working on a new manuscript right now.
Right now, I'm working on grants to get the that app out. I really want to write that app. And
Yeah.
because of the Supper Table project with Cindy Boyder and Jasper Magazine, they have me in this like historical prose mode where I want to go back and tell all the historical moments. So blame Cindy Boyder.
We're going to have to get together because, you know, that's my jam too.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm not going to keep us too much longer. But that was just really great. We're excited to hear about all the great things you're doing. Shout out to Jay and to Heather.
Yes.
Candace, that was amazing. And everybody, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Check out this work. Check out these books. Check out all these fabulous things that are happening. And also, please keep your eye out because we're going to re-release the Richard Garcia reading after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
We had a little interference from a hurricane when he was reading. So we re-recorded that. We're going to send that back out this week. So, but Candace, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go, and I appreciate your time so much. This was so great. Okay, and we will see we're not going to be here on Thursday because we're all going to be eating turkey next week. But the following Thursday, we will be back with Carolina Poets. Please go over to our YouTube channel if you're not there right now and give us a like. We're trying to get up to 100 likes so we can get our custom URL. But thank y'all. Poetry is life. I hope that y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.